Hi everyone, my name is Keanu James Garcia from BSIT 1A. I'm going to report the Bill of Rights. What is Bill of Rights? Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution is the Bill of Rights. It establishes the relationship of the individual to the state and defines the rights of the individual by limiting the lawful powers of the state. This is one of the most important political achievements of the Filipino. Kaning Bill of Rights, ginapakita niya ang connection nato as an individual sa estado. Kaning estado, mo ni siyang tagapamahala sa ato or nagahatag og mga laws or batas. Kaning Bill of Rights mo ni siyang nagapakita kung unsa ang karapatan nato as an individual. The concept of a Bill of Rights as such is essentially an Occidental product for a number of centuries in British, French, and American political thought. There has grown the conviction that the rights of the individual must be preserved and safeguarded, not through the authority of an individual, not through membership in a particular group or party, not through reliance upon force of arms, but rather through the accepted process of declared constitutional law. Ang konsepto sa Bill of Rights importante. Kaya according sa mga politicians sa mga British, French, and American sa pila ka centuries, they believe na ang karapatan nato as an individual kay nagagrow or mas nagakadako ang value ug dapat na i-preserve or i-treasure. Dili lang tungod sa imong authority as an individual or membro sa isa ka lugar, kundi tungod ni siya sa pag-approve sa proseso sa Bill of Rights sa constitutional laws. Naay tulo ka classification ang Bill of Rights, which is ang first is natural rights, constitutional rights, and statutory rights. Ang first is natural rights. Natural rights holds that individuals have certain rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property, in virtue of their human nature rather than on account of prevailing laws or conventions. The idea of natural rights reaches far back in the history of philosophy and legal thought. Ang natural rights, mo ni siya ang atong mga karapatan na di na kailangan moagi og proseso. Instead, natural na siya sa ato. For example, natay karapatan sa atong sariling kinabuhi, karapatan nato para sa atong freedom o sa atong mga treasures. Natural rights are rights conferred on all people by nature or God, which no government or individual can deny or limit. Natural law is frequently used to describe how natural rights are conferred on people. The concept of a natural law providing the existence of certain natural rights was originally introduced in ancient Greek philosophy. Later on, it was mentioned in the Bible and developed further in the Middle Ages. During the Age of Enlightenment, natural rights were used to counter absolutism or king's divine rights. Kaning natural rights kay ang karapatan nato nagihatag sa ato naturally gikan sa Ginoo na dili na pwede pa nato usbon sa biskan kinsa. Kay ang natural law mao ni siyang ginagamit para mas may pasabot kung unsa ka importante ang natural rights. Kaning concept pa ng natural law na ginagamit para mas mag-exist ang natural rights kay originally gi-introduce sa ancient Greek philosophy and sunod sa Bible and sunod sa Middle Ages. Sa panahon sa una, ginagamit ang natural rights pangkontra sa mga absolutism o kaning mga laws or batas sa mga hari. Kay sa una, ang batas sa unang gisumala sa mga hari is sobra ka unfair o harsh mo ni ilang gamit pang kontra. Ang next is constitutional rights. What is constitutional rights? Constitutional rights are granted to individuals by virtue of their citizenship or residence in a particular country, whereas human rights are inherent and held as attributes of the human personality. Human rights are both abstract and practical. So kaning constitutional rights maobtain ni siya sa isa ka individual through our citizenship kung asa ta nabilong na lugar. So sa constitutional rights dako imong karapatan kung naa ka sa imong country. So diri sa constitutional rights, ang atong human rights ay gina-consider nila as atong human personality. A constitutional right can be a prerogative or a duty, a power or restraint of power recognized and established by a sovereign state or union of states. Constitutional rights may be expressly stipulated in a national constitution, or they, which is the supreme law of the land, meaning that laws that contradict it are considered unconstitutional and invalid. Usually, any constitution defines the structures, functions, powers, and limits of the national government, and the individual freedoms, rights, and obligations will be protected and enforced when needed by the national authorities. So, kaning constitutional rights daw is a powerful na batas. Pwede siya himuon pang depensa nato against sa uban laws. O kung unsa man na laws ang mulabag sa constitutional rights, gina-consider siya as invalid. So, ginapasabot sa constitutional rights is dapat tanang struktura, duties, power, limitation sa pamansang struktura, o ang kalayaan nato, mga karapatan or obligations nato will be protected and enforced sa atong gobyerno. So, ang last classification sa Bill of Rights is kaning statutory rights. Statutory rights are an individual's legal rights given to him or her by the local national ruling government. These are generally designed to protect citizens. They are typically enforced by local law enforcement, and their violation usually carries a penalty of legal prosecution and punishment. These rights are created by the ruling government of the country through legislation. For example, the statutory rights of the United States are created by the judicial branch of the federal government. They are often based on cultural customs. This means that certain rights bestowed by one country may not be recognized by another. So kaning statutory rights is gidesign para maprotektahan ang mga citizens against violation kung sa na crimes. So kanina rights nagahatag siya og punishment or penalty kung kinsa ang mulabag ani. So kanina rights is gihimo sa isa ka ruling government through legislation. In the statutory rights daw if naay ipagkuloob na rights sa lain bansa is dili na siya mailan or ma-recognize. A statutory rights refers to a right granted under a federal or state statute. Statutes are laws enacted by a specific legislator or governing body that can be used to resolve a variety of different legal disputes. Statutory rights are primarily designed to protect citizens and are usually carried out by the local law enforcement. Violating any of these rights can lead to legal penalties and prosecution, depending on the related local and federal legislation. So there is a statutory rights. Ang tanan batas kay powerful ug pwede siya pang solve sa tanan problema o dili pagkasinabtanay. Para sa akong gingon ganina na gidesign ni siya para protektahan ang mga tao na gi-violate o giabuso. So, sabot diri nga ang tanan na mulabag sa batas diri is ginaparusahan siya. So ang next is ang classification of constitutional rights. So ang first is kay ang political rights. Political rights are refer to an individual's ability to participate in the civil and political life of the society and state without fear of discrimination or oppression, and is tied closely to citizenship status. Such rights include not only the right to vote in an election but also the rights to join a political party, run for office, and participate freely in political rallies, events, or protests. So kaning political rights is karapatan ni siya sa mga tao na tanan tao pwede mo participate or maapil sa politiko na di dapat i-discriminate sa ban o sa pangklase ng discrimination. Dili lang ni karapatan na moapil sa politiko pero include ni nga tanan pwede makaboto or ma-appeal sa political rally or mga protesta. So ang next is civil rights. Civil and political rights are a class of rights that protect individuals' freedom from infringement by governments, social organizations, and private individuals. They ensure one's entitlement to participate in the civil and political life of society and the state without discrimination or repression. The Civil Rights of Act 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Provisions of the Civil Rights Act forbid discrimination on the basis of sex as well as race in hiring, promoting, and firing. Kaning civil rights is karapatan nato as an individual na maprotektahan ta sa mga abuse and corruption sa gobyerno. Hinabawal sad sa civil rights ang discrimination like discrimination sa sex, sa color, sa lahi, sa dili patas na hiring sa trabaho o dili pag-promote sa imo bisan deserving ka sa imong trabaho o ang pagtanggal sa imo sa trabaho. So ang next is ang social and economic rights. Economic and social rights are human rights that relate to our ability to live in dignity and participate fully in our society. They include rights related to the workplace, social security, and access to housing, food, water, health, care, and education. They include the right to fair wages and equal pay, the right to adequate protection of income in the event of unemployment, sickness, or old age, and the right to an adequate standard of living. So kaning social economic rights is karapatan nato sa na naga-focus siya more on sa economy sa atong mga lives. For example, mga karapatan nato sa trabaho, sa balay, sa pagkaon, sa health nato or sa education. So the last but not the least kay ang the rights of the accused. So, rights of the accused in law, the rights and privilege of a person accused of a crime. Granting him a fair trial, these rights were initially generally from the 18th century and confined primarily to the actual trial itself. But in the second half of the 20th century, many countries began to extend them to the periods before and after the trial. All legal systems provide, at least on paper, guarantees that ensure certain basic rights of the accused. These include right to trial by jury, unless jury trial is waived, to representation by counsel, at least when he is accused of a serious crime, to represent witnesses and evidence that will enable him to prove his innocence and to confront his accusers, as well as freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures and freedom from double jeopardy. So kaning rights of the accused is karapatan ni siya sa mga tao na nag-commit og crimes. So diri na sila mga rights like karapatan nila na matagaan og fair na pag-judge or karapatan na magkuha og lawyers para madepensahan ilang sarili. So that's all. Thank you for watching.
Good day everyone. I am Nicole Sasinas. I am one of the reporters of Timbangan. In the memorable words of Thomas Jefferson, it was mentioned that all men were created equal and independent, that from equal creation they derive the rights inherent and unalienable, among which is the right to the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As such, these rights were preserved by the government by the virtue of Article 3 of the 1987 Constitution of the Republic Act of the Philippines, accessed from the Presidential Communications Operations Office, in short PCOO, EDP or IT Division 2022. The 1987 Constitution of the Republic Act of the Philippines, Article 3, Bill of Rights. Section 1. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. For example, an employer may be harder for a specific employee from anyone else from no apparent reason. While it might be unethical behavior for a boss, it is not discrimination by law, but if he or she is extra hard on the employee for a reason that is protected by law, such as age or sex, then such as constitute illegally discrimination, especially if such employee suffers damage such as getting passed over a well-deserved raise or promotion. Section 2. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever nature and for any purpose shall be inviolable, and no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge after examination under oath or affirmation of the compliant and the witnesses he may produce, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The people of the Republic of the Philippines have more power than the military. In other words, the people have the right to ask questions and certain cases, communicate with, interfere with, and command the military. After all, the military's primary mission is to safeguard the people of the Republic of the Philippines as well as the land, sea, and air within the country's sovereign authority and jurisdiction. Section 3. The privacy of communication, correspondence shall be inviolable except upon lawful order of the court or when public safety or order requires otherwise as prescribed by law. Any evidence obtained in violation of this or the preceding section shall be inadmissible for any purpose in any proceeding. For example, individuals may assert a private right to be let alone when the press reports on their private life or follows them around in an intrusive manner on public and private property. Section 4. No law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. It is mentioned in this part that it is forbidden to penalize individuals who speak up and express their opinions about social issues, including the right to criticize my government. This section also states that it is permissible to express opinions in the public interest. Section 5. No law shall be made respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship without discrimination or preference shall forever be allowed. No religious test shall be required for the exercise of civil or political rights. No one will be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, and no one shall be refused equal treatment under the law. There shall be no legislation establishing religion or forbidding its free exercise. Section 6. The liberty of abode and changing the same within the limits prescribed by law shall not be impaired except upon lawful order of the court. Neither shall the right to travel be impaired except the interest of national security, public safety, or public health as may be provided by law. Only freedom to travel and dwell in an area free from outside interference is mentioned in this section. The current epidemic is foremost on our list, while the house relocation is put on hold though. Section 7. The right of the people to information on matters of public concern shall be recognized. Access to official records and to the documents and papers pertaining to official acts, transactions, or decisions as well as the government research data used as basis for policy development shall be afforded the citizen, subject to such limitation as may be provided by law. Only the recognition of the inhabitants of the town's right to know about matters relating to it is stated in this section. According to the legislation, the public should have access to official records, documents, and papers pertaining to official operations, transactions, or decisions, as well as the government research data on which development policy is based. Section 8. The right of people, including those employed in public and private sectors, to form unions, associations, or societies for purposes not contrary to the law shall not be abridged. In this section, it is declared that the right of citizens, including those who serve in public and private sectors, to establish associations, unions, or associations for purposes that do not denounce or go against the law should not be prevented. Section 9. Private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. This provision states that it is not appropriate to restrict the ability of the citizens, including those who work in public and commercial sectors, to form groups, unions, or associations for goals that do not criticize or violate the law. Section 10. No law impairing the obligation of contracts shall be passed. An example of impairment by law is when a letter taxing a statute revokes a tax exemption based on a contract, but this only applies when the tax exemption has been granted for a valid consideration. Section 11. Free access to the courts and quasi-judicial bodies and adequate legal assistance shall not be denied to any person by reason of poverty. For example, a man's son was killed by hit and run. He wanted justice for his son, but he is continuously denied by service by lawyers in his area. He was told he could not win the case because he is poor. This can be seen as violation of Section 11 because the poor man was denied legal services. Section 12. Any person under investigation for the commission of an offense shall have the right to be informed of his right to remain silent and to have competent and independent counsel, preferably of his own choice. If the person cannot afford the services of counsel, he must be provided with one. These rights cannot be waived except in writing and in the presence of counsel. In this section, any person who is under investigation for a violation must have the right to be informed of his rights, including the right to remain silent and to have a lawyer with sufficient ability to defend a defendant. If he or she cannot afford to hire a lawyer to defend him, he must be provided with one. No torture, force, violence, threat, intimidation, or other means which vitiate the free will shall be used against him. Secret detention places, solitary, incommunicado, or other similar forms of detention are prohibited. This section also states that he should not be subjected to excessive torture and force, violence, intimidation, threats, or any means that will harm his free will. It is also forbidden to secretly imprison a person to confess it. Any confession or admission obtained in violation of this or Section 17 whereof shall be inadmissible in evidence against him. It is also stated in Section 12 that in any confession or admission obtained in violation of this section and section 17 will not be accepted as evidence against him. The law shall provide for penal and civil sanctions for violations of this section as well as compensation to and rehabilitation of victims of torture or similar practices and their families. Section 12 also states that the law shall provide for penal and civil penalties for violations of this section as well as compensation and rehabilitation for victims of excessive torture or similar practices and their family. For the section 13 to 22 will be further explained by our groupmate Al Solor.
So Section 13, all persons except those charged with offenses punishable by reclusion perpetua when evidence of guilt is strong shall, before conviction, be bailable by sufficient sureties, or be released on recognizance as may be provided by law. The right to bail shall not be impaired even when the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus is suspended. Excessive bail shall not be required. So, kanina Bill of Rights, i-explain na tanang tao except atong nay mga sala na ang panis sa ilaha kay reclusion perpetua or panghabang buhay na pagkakakulong. Example sa offense aning reclusion perpetua is anti-trafficking, illegal explosive, selling of drugs, murder, rape, and others. So, kanina mga offense, kay wala sila rights mag-bail. If imong sala na nabuhat dili include sa reclusion perpetua, bisan pag-strong ang evidence is naa kay rights nga mag-bail bago ka mahatulan or pwede ka makalaya with the right bail na gi-allowed sa law. So, next one is section 14. So, number 1, no person shall be held to answer for a criminal offense without due process of law. And the second one, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall be presumed innocent until contrary is proved, and shall enjoy the right to be heard by himself and counsel, to be informed of the nature of and cause of the accusation against him, to have a speedy, impartial, public trial, to meet the witnesses face to face, and to have compulsory process to secure the attendance of witnesses and the production of evidence in his behalf. However, after arraignment, trial may proceed notwithstanding the absence of the accused, provided that he has been duly notified and his failure to appear is unjustifiable. So, kani nga section, if ang situation kay walay due process, so wala sila rights na i-held ka sa ato nga offense. So, innocent gyapon ka hangtod sa naa sila mapatunayan na gibuhat to nimo na offense. So, kabalo naman tatanan unsay due process no kanang mga legal actions na so sa kanina section diri ma-insert ang mga trials and investigations. And also diri pod nakapaloob pod diri nga pwede ang akusado nga maharap niya o ma-face to face niya ang mga witness. So sa mao na siya ang section number 14. So next is section number 15. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended except in cases of invasion or rebellion when the public safety requires it. So, kanina section, dili daw allowed masuspend ang habeas corpus except na lang if ang accused kay na charge og rebellion or offenses na connected sa rebellion or directly connected with invasion. So, ang habeas corpus is a written order issued by a court directed to a person detaining another. commanding him to produce the body of the prisoner at a designated time and place with the day and cause of his caption and detention, or in short, ang pagdala sa detain sa korte. Kay if ang akusado is charged with rebellion, masuspend siya para sa safety sa public. So, mao to ang sulod sa section number 15. So, next is section number 16. All persons shall have the right to a speedy disposition of their cases before all judicial, quasi-judicial, or administrative bodies. So, diri nga section na ay karapatan ang tao na padalion pagresolba sa kung unsa man ang dapat iresolba sa ilang mga kaso. Sa pulong nga gibanggit mao ang judicial, quasi-judicial, or administrative bodies. The next one is section number 17. Section 17, no person shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. So it means dili pwede dapat pugson ang isa ka tao na mo testify laban sa iyang sarili. So kanina section connected sa section 12, which is the right to remain silent, which is discussed sa akong kauban. So next one is section number 18. Section 18. Number 1, no person shall be detained solely by reason of his political beliefs and aspirations. Number 2, no involuntary servitude in any form shall exist except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So it means wala daw rights ikulong ang isa ka tao tungod sa iyang political beliefs because every person has its own opinion. So diri masulod tong right to freedom of speech. And also hindi dapat pairalin ang anumang anyo ng sapilitang paglilingkod maliban kung kaparusahang pataw ng hatol ng pagkakasala. So mao na ang sulod sa section number 18. So next is section number 19. Section number 19, number 1, excessive fines shall not be imposed, nor cruel, degrading, or inhuman punishment inflicted. Neither shall death penalty be imposed unless for compelling reasons involving heinous crimes. The Congress hereafter provides for it. Any death penalty already imposed shall be reduced to reclusion perpetua. And the second one, the employment of physical, psychological, or degrading punishment against any prisoner or detained, or the use of substandard or inadequate penal facilities under subhuman conditions shall be dealt with by law. So, diri na section, dili dapat ipataw or ihatol ang malabis na multa at hindi dapat maging abusado sa pagpaparusa kahit na nagkasala ang isang tao. At ang hatol na kamatayan ay ibababa raw sa hatol na maging reclusion perpetua o panghabang buhay na pagkakakulong lamang. Hindi na po kamatayan. So, at dapat ring lapatan ng kaukulang batas ang pagpapahirap sa mga preso na nasa presohan. Mao ang sulod sa section number 19. So next is section 20. No person shall be imprisoned for debt or non-payment of a poll tax. So it means nga dili pwede mapriso ang isa ka tao tungod lamang sa utang o tungod kay wala siya kabayad sa ginatawag nga sidula or poll tax. The next one is section 21. No person should be twice put in jeopardy of punishment for the same offense. If an act is punished by a law and an ordinance, conviction or acquittal under either shall constitute a bar to another prosecution for the same act. So, it means na ang person o isa ka tao is charged with the same offense, tas ang case kay terminated na, dili na ma-charge and accused with the same offense kay na-trial naman siya. So, mao na ang sulod na section number 21. So, next is section number 22. No ex facto law or bail of attender shall be enacted. So it means, dili daw pwede parusahan ang isa ka tao na nakabuhat og sala na wala sa batas sa ang iyang sala. So dili pwede kasuhan ang tao nga nakabuhat og mali pero wala man nakabutang sa batas. So maura to ang akong report. Thank you.